Okay, welcome back to another interview at Crystal Lake. Only today we are interviewing an artist, not an author. And our guest is Ted Dilucia, and I'm going to let him introduce himself. Take it away.
I'm Ted Dilucia, and I'm an illustrator. And Been doing art for since I was a kid. Painting and drawing and illustrating. And I guess that's me. That's who I am. That's what I do.
Yes, and you do it well too, by the way. I've
Okay,
taken a look
thank
at
you.
some of your work. Okay, so you are the illustrator on the book I Scream, You Scream, We All Scream for Ice Cream. So tell us a little bit about the book.
Right. So the book was is a short story by John Farris, and John Farris is uh, prominently well known for the book The Fury, the novel, which Brian De Palma made into a film back in the 70s. And back in the early 2000s, his John Farris's short story, this short story, the I Scream, You Scream, We All Scream for Ice Cream, uh, ended up into the Masters of Horror series, and it was part of season 2. And that was created by Mick Garris, who had gotten all these great horror directors, or just great directors in general. And that was one of the stories that was chosen to become an episode. And that's how I first got involved with the story, because I hadn't heard it, I think, since the show introduced it. And uh, trying to get my thoughts together. But yeah, so uh, yeah, yeah. If you want to ask me another question, but
So, how did you get involved with the book project?
so I read the short story, and contacted Mick Garris, who ran the Masters of Horror, and he was kind enough to introduce me to David Scow, who wrote The Crow. And I had written to him and was trying to get to John Farris. And I knew that David Scow had written a foreword to one of John's books, and so he was kind enough to put me in touch with John, and then John then gave me the permission to illustrate his story.
Well, that's nice. I love it when the authors and the illustrators and everybody work together and network.
Yeah, it was um kind of a like jumping from one person to the other in uh, getting to the story.
Yeah, that's often how it works.
Yeah,
So, obviously, the story was a big inspiration for the art, but did you
right.
draw on any other sources for inspiration?
Um, well, it all comes down to the story, and I basically go by the story itself, and I go by uh each page dictates an illustration, and in the descriptions I try to find the key moment that um uh best describes or exemplifies how the story is moving along. I kind of see a lot of it kind of like filmmaking, with storyboards, or well, because it's a picture book, so it feels kind of like um, it feels like making a movie through images, through storyboards, and following it that way.
Yeah, I could see that. You need I would think it's a bit like graphic art, not graphic art, but graphic comic books. Only one scene instead of instead of multiple scenes in the illustration. So yeah.
Right. And for me, it's so say if it works best with short stories, but say if say if the short story is 15 pages, that usually makes 15 illustrations, and I'm trying to be as authentic as I can to the author's descriptions, because a lot of the times what happens is when stories like this get made into a film or um, maybe illustrated by another artist, a lot of the details get changed. It's just that's just I guess the nature of those medias, but I'm trying to be as authentic as possible. You know, if it's kind of like if the person has red hair, I'm not going to make the person have black hair, because that's not what John or any of these or other authors I've worked with have described. It's
Yeah.
it's a strict continuity that I'm trying to really follow.
Yeah, I did the same thing when I was designing one of my covers. The image I had was blonde, but the character had red hair, so I
Right,
had to.
right. And then you're wrestling with your own aesthetic and pleasing
Mhm.
yourself as well. And um, hopefully you can come to some kind of, compromise with the words and the images.
Yeah, definitely. So I love that how the design of the illustrations varied in the book. I mean, some of them had like a collage feel
Hmm.
to them, and some of them more of a traditional illustration style. So, how did you decide on each design idea and the layout of the book?
Yeah. So I've been incorporating collage because I feel it brings a realism to the horror, to the story, but also helps kind of counterbalance my style of illustrating. Um, uh, so the collage element just gives it a little bit more realism, but also the colors too. So the color, so for this book, for We All Scream for Ice Cream, I chose kind of a warm sepia type palette for when the characters talk about their past, the 1950s, and so I decided to make it a little bit more warm and hazy. And then when we get back to the real world, I made the colors. Well, the thing is, I think in a lot of the genre and horror illustrating, there's a lot of black and white, and there's a lot of pencil illustration, which is great. And there's people who do it extremely well. But for me, I want to infuse color, because I think color can be just as moody and frightening, or give some kind of emotion that uh, black and white does also.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I noticed the muted tones in some of the illustrations, and some of them had more of a vibrant, sort of almost primary colors
mhm.
feel to them. But I was wondering why you added the pastels, because I noticed the later images sort of had very ethereal, almost pastel colors in them.
Yeah. Um, so that's kind of my color palette, is that kind of Easter egg uh uh range of color. And I think it worked well with We All Scream for Ice Cream, because it's about candy, it's about ice cream, it's about um you know it's kind of like enticing, and draws, like the children in, and um but then it gives it a weird kind of softness to the horrific events that might be happening in the book. And that's that's kind of my that's kind well that's kind of what my eye is drawn to, is those soft colors, because I'm not trying to be heavy, or um I don't think I'm trying to make scary images as much as I am maybe pretty images, and through the pretty images, maybe there's a scariness or a creepy undertone that lies under this kind of veneer or colorful luster.
Yeah, I like that. I like that in the images because you had the pretty colors, the things that you associate with maybe cotton candy or, like
Mhm.
you said, candy, but the images were so surreal that you have this kind of, like, contrast to them as well, so I really did like those images,
Thank
a
you.
lot. Yeah, so what was your favorite illustration in the book?
Um, I think I like the ones that um show Buster, who is the ice cream man in the story, without giving too much away, um, surrounded by all of the children that um, embrace him and wait for the ice cream man to come along. Um, there's other ones that I don't want to give too much away, but involve, what Buster does to get revenge on the kids that had caused his untimely demise. Um, so yeah, I think I like the ones that uh, foreshadow the doom that might happen or give you little hints of what's to come. Uh, so yeah, I think it's hard. It's hard to, you know, decide which ones you like, but hopefully they all um, work well together. That's another important thing too, is seeing the illustrations side by side so they all kind of uh, work in the same world.
I think they do. They're very different. Like you said, use the different colors and different styles, but they do kind of all work together.
Mhm.
It's like they're telling. Well, hopefully, they're telling the story in the illustrations. You're seeing the different pieces, the different characters in the illustrations, which
Right.
I really did enjoy when I was flipping through the illustrations and stuff to before the interview. That yeah, it really is kind of different, but very cohesive at the same time, so yeah, I
Yeah.
think you pulled it off.
Again, it's kind of, I feel like I'm shooting a movie or making a movie, or um, how the illustrations maybe can tell the story without the words. And and John Farris, who's such a extraordinary writer, doesn't need help.
Oh,
Doesn't need help, doesn't need my help, but I want to be at that caliber too of they should work side by side. They should sit side by side equally, and hopefully I can bring that to a story.
yeah, I think the words in the your illustrations, they enhance each other, so so, did you find anything challenging about illustrating the book? Did you have any problems with the art any art?
Um, no, well, no, because usually I go by each page, but I think one of the things is to I think of is not doing any adaptation that's come before, or to be influenced by any adaptation that's come before. I mean, there's a lot of, film adaptations of all kinds of stories, and um, we don't want to illustrate that. We want to, so it's easy for me to block that out and just kind of go by what John has said on the pages, and that's what helps um, drive me. And I try to obtain a subtlety too with um, I'm not really into the whole blood and gore thing, but if it calls for it, I try to do it in a certain way, certain style that's not um, shocking for shock value.
Yeah, subtlety in the art is a good thing, I think.
Yeah. And in a lot of short stories are subtle in the way that
Mm,
they're written, in the way that they end, and it's not always ending with a big explosion or Hollywood type ending, and I think that's what probably gets lost in a lot of these adaptations is that, you know, I understand that it's for film, so it's got to be a little bit more grandiose, but um, the short stories that do get adapted um, are the purest form of the story, and it's I encourage people to go back and read where the source comes from.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm not uh, being against movies or adaptations, but there's always a difference between the source material and the movie or TV adaptation. I mean, they
Right,
both have their place, but they are both very different mediums.
right, and it's the short stories stay with you, and they're
Mm,
creepy because they're subtle. They're not. It's not Hollywood, and it's not making a movie. It's the subtlety that's what I'm after is the subtlety.
yeah. So, what's your favorite aspect of being an illustrator?
Oh, that's a tough one. That's like kind of who are we? Why are we here? Kind of a question. Um, I think it's world building and um, again trying to for me it's trying to be as authentic to what's written by these authors that I admire and um, get inspired by their stories.
Mm, well, that's a good answer. So, what influenced your art style over the years? When I was looking at it, kind of to me, it seemed a little bit of abstract influence, a little bit of surrealism, but I
Mhm.
mean, I might just be reading into it. So,
No, so I do like art history very much, and I'm always looking at everything. This I would say my biggest influence is pop art, and I think with pop art, I'm trying to do something that's different that strays from the norm of horror. So that's why you might see logos and maybe cute kind of things that I infuse with it. Um, but that's probably the biggest influence is bringing that poppiness and that color into a genre or this horror genre that normally you wouldn't see or get.
yeah, a lot of horror art, you do get a lot of blues, dark blues, and blacks and reds.
Yeah, yeah, and again, it's yeah, I think some of the illustrations do get driven by color, especially for We All Scream for Ice Cream, and I look at everything. Um, I research quite a bit because I'm trying to be also faithful to the time period that the story was written or set in. So, uh, We All Scream for Ice Cream set in the 80s, but it jumps back to the 50s when the kids were younger. And so I have to look at, hairstyles, clothing. I look at everything. I look at, plate settings,
Yeah.
cars, you name it, because I don't want to cheat anybody. And it's important to do the homework.
Yeah, that's the same when the artists are writing the stories, we're looking into that stuff too, so
Yeah. No, yeah, you have to know where you're going,
yeah.
and you just can't people will know if an iPod or something shows up in the 1950s and it just doesn't click, it doesn't gel.
Yeah, unless you're writing a
Right, right.
time travel story or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway, and I can see the pop art influence in it too, so yeah, that's interesting. So, who are some of your favorite artists?
So when I was a kid, I was heavily influenced by Lane Smith, who is a children's uh illustrator, and he famously did the Stinky Cheese Man um children's book, along with the true story of the Three Little Pigs. And he was he also did James and the Giant Peach adaptation, which then later became the movie. And his style was something that was completely different, uh, that strayed from the norm that other illustrators were probably doing at the time. It was dark and it was uh, a bit creepy and just unconventional. And the other, when I was a kid, also the other artist was Lane Smith. Tim Sale, who's a comic book graphic novelist, illustrator, who not too long ago had passed away. But it was his Batman series that I've never seen the characters drawn or illustrated like that before, and it just you just connect with something. It's hard to, it's almost abstract in a way. It's hard to um, describe it, but also the other artist that has kind of shifted my way of thinking is Deborah Cass. And Deborah Cass is a pop artist, also living in New York. And it's just the way that she incorporates pop art, art history, and herself into her work. And that's kind of what I'm I'm kind of wrestling with myself when I
Mm.
think about things.
Yeah, well, excellent favorites to have. So, tell us about some of the other projects you've been a part of.
So the first book that I've done was Joe Lansdale's Incident on and Off a Mountain Road. And the second book was Bentley Little's The Washingtonians. And these are stories that um, I was in love with, had also become episodes for the Masters of Horror series. So I'm also up against, that the film adaptations, which are brilliant, but I'm not dissuaded by any of that because I'm still going by the words of the author, and there's a lot of um, scenes that they write that don't make it to film or the adaptations that I get to illustrate and show in its, hopefully in its original, intent of the story.
Yeah, and those two books are also very, very good. So,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
right,
Thank you.
for our listeners, you can go out and check out those two as well. So, what's your next project? Do you have anything coming up?
I'm currently working on Josh Mallerman, um, House of the Head, which is about a little girl who gets a dollhouse, and one day in her dollhouse, it basically becomes haunted by a severed head that terrorizes the dolls in the dollhouse. And that was that was also adapted for the Creep Show series, and I had fallen in love with that story, and uh, just I think it fits my aesthetic and way of thinking, and you don't get too many. There's not too many doll stories, I think, being written, and this is kind of one of those. I think one of those stories that is in the canon of a very short group of doll stories, kind of like Magic from William Goldman, which is one of my favorites, with the ventriloquist dummy, uh, and that was also made into a film in the 70s. But that's another story I would love to illustrate as well. Magic.
Yeah, well, I think we can all look forward to that one too, because I can imagine some of the art for that particular
Yeah,
dollhouse book. Anyway, I'd like to thank you for being a guest today. We're going to wrap the interview up here. It was a pleasure chatting with you. And
yeah. Thank you.
that's it for this episode, everybody. And bye for now.